J.A. Bryden lives in a small town a couple of hours west of the city of Sydney in Australia. He self published his first book, Letters from the Emu War, in December 2021, which has now been picked up by an Australian publisher and set for re release in 2023. He also runs a podcast slash YouTube channel called Stories, the True and the Fictional, which is a bit of a variety show that revolves around the theme of stories. They talk TV slash film, historical events, weird news, and have interviews with authors and filmmakers. He recently started a private Facebook page called Authors and Friends for indie authors and anyone who loves to read. He's currently working on a trilogy of novellas about the zombie apocalypse breaking out a medieval-themed Bucks party. Book 1 is Bucks Night, Book 2, Hens Knight, and Book 3, Wedding Night. All right, well, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and what got you started with writing and publishing, and also how you got into podcasting?
Yep, cool. Well, it's an interesting journey for me. I grew up here in just outside Sydney, Australia, and I did not like reading. I was very creative as a kid. I was pretty creative. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So writing is something I didn't even think about until probably about a year ago. And even then, I'd say 5 years before that, I was doing a little bit of screenwriting and almost got some movies made. And that was interesting. Randomly ran into someone in my street that used to work in Hollywood, knew Ridley Scott. So that never went anywhere, sadly. But yeah, just last year or so, I had an idea for a movie and it didn't work out. So then I said, no, you know what, I'll do a book on it. And I never even thought about being, professionally published or anything like that. And I didn't really think about taking writing seriously until a publishing company came and said, hey, do you want to republish your book? And I was like, yeah, sure. And that's basically where I basically got it, took it seriously and said, this is something I really enjoy doing. And so I spent most of my life not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. I usually just did what was good, what I was good at. I played music a lot as a kid and I did that for a while, but I don't know if I really loved it. I mean, I loved it, but I didn't love it. If you know what I mean. I didn't see it as a career. I just loved doing it and did it because I was good at it. But writing, it's the thing that I love to do now. Like I've finally figured out what I want to do. And and through that I started my own podcast and started meeting authors and filmmakers even, and it was such a wonderful experience. And I see myself doing it for the rest of my life. But yeah.
Cool. What was the first book that you wrote?
The first book I wrote is the only book I've written so far. It's called Letters from the Emu War, which, as the title suggests, it's war correspondence written by emus. And funny enough, it is actually based on a true event in Australian history, where the Australian Army declared war on emus, and we ended up losing to the emus. I know you're probably looking at me like you're making this up, but if you want, pause and go check out YouTube. There's a whole lot of docos on it. But pretty much 20,000 emus migrated to the west coast of Australia, and it was a big drought, so they were hungry, and they found a whole lot of farmers' crops. And just to give you an idea of the decimation, the average emu eats like between 1 and 2 pounds of food a day, and drinks up to 18 liters of water a day. So times that by 20,000. There was a lot of decimation, but they officially declared war on the emus. Everyone that fought in the war got a medal, but they couldn't kill them. They went out there with machine guns and they tried to mow them down, and in the end they killed about 900, and it averaged out as 10 rounds per bird. And the humans retreated and the emus won to live the day. And yeah, so basically the book is it tells the story of everything that happened, but through letters and newspaper articles and journal entries, and it is fiction written into fact. But as far as I can tell, emus don't know how to write letters, so it was such a cool experience. And I laughed the entire time because I got a lot of the artwork done by people on Fiverr, and they're from other countries. And sometimes there's a bit of a language barrier, and I'd be like, okay, I want to put an emu into a uniform, and it's just like I'd have to show them two pictures and be like, I want this in this. And I got a lot of strange looks, strange experiences, responses, should I say. And a friend of mine helped map it out, Chris Park. I should give him a shout out. He helped create some of the characters, because we made a whole lot of different characters and their loved ones. So they're writing back and forth, and you have the general emu that's leading everyone. You have the historian emu that just wants to keep a record. Very, very human qualities, like a Disney Pixar film kind of thing. Like they're animals, but they're human, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it was the experience of a lifetime writing this book. I'll hold it up. I think because it's such a random, unique, weird concept, it's what got the attention of the publisher, and I'm excited to be revamping it for under them, and I'll be able to fix all the mistakes that I made, the millions of mistakes that I made self-publishing it myself. But yeah.
So you self-published it first, and then it got picked up by a publisher recently?
That's correct, yeah.
Cool.
I self-published it, didn't know what I was doing. I literally, I didn't even know about book formatting. I think I went to put it on Amazon. I was like, wait, I've got to format this thing? And so millions of mistakes, cost a lot of money, but in the end, it's worth it, because it's, going to get proper marketing now.
Yeah, that'll be great. Do you have some of the illustrations on the inside that I could see?
Yeah, I can hold some. Oh, look at that right there.
That's awesome. That's such a funny story. Like,
yeah,
I wish it had become a movie, because I would watch it.
Well, funny you should mention that. Rob Schneider and John Cleese are doing a movie.
Oh, so they are going to turn it into a movie?
Yeah. So
awesome.
Ironically, I wrote a script, and it was going to be Disney Pixar, and it was from the perspective of the emus, and it just fell through. We had, if you've heard of Happy Feet, the movie Happy Feet. Yeah. Well, we had there was a lady that created the studio that made Happy Feet, and she was on board, but then it all fell apart. And so it was going to be a Disney Pixar style kind of movie, but then it fell through. And then like a year or two later, after I've done that, written it, and it's all fallen through, then John Cleese and Rob Schneider come out, and they're doing a movie, but I guarantee you it's from the human side. I've always wanted to do it from the perspective of the emus. I love doing things differently. Like, I love finding a story and seeing how I can do it differently. And I think from getting inside the minds of emus was a very unique way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that would have been really fun to watch, especially in like a Pixar style format.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Do you know when the movie's supposed to come out?
They said this year. It's scheduled for this year, but because I think they're trying to film it in Australia, because we're still COVID nuts down here, they probably had to push it back. And I'm gonna guess it's going to come out next year, which is good, because that's when my book's getting re-released. So I've always found when a movie comes out and people want to go, they want to know about it, they want to know more, and they're going to Google it, and the first thing they're going to see is my book. So I'm going to be like, thank you, marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be really great. That's good timing.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Man, I want my book to turn into a movie. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, well, then I guess when you did do the self-publishing, And you talked a little bit about how the formatting, you didn't know how to do the formatting, or like there's just a lot of steps that you kind of came across that you weren't familiar with. Did you end up hiring people out to help you with that process, or did you just learn it and do it yourself?
Well, a bit of both. I mean, I went onto Fiverr. I was on Fiverr a lot, and I paid for about 2 or 3 people to format it for me, and I wasn't happy with it. I just wasn't happy with like it looked good, but it wasn't good enough, if you know what I mean. And then I found out, I discovered the program that they use, that some of them use, and I just went and bought it. So that's another couple $100. And but then I did the formatting myself. And it's just, it was a good program. And in hindsight, I would have loved to known about that program before I, went out and paid for other people to do it. But I did the editing myself, which I regret, because I did have to revise it a few times. Like I'd print a couple of copies, I'd give them to a friend, give them to a family, and my mum would come in and go, "What's this on page?" Whatever. And I go, "Oh," and it's just like one little typo. And there's still typos in there now, but they're ones I could fix, but they'd cost a bit. But it's getting republished, so I'm not going to bother. Save a bit of money that way. But I learned all about publishing after I'd published. So I wish I had a time machine.
That's pretty much how it went for me as well. I think sometimes you have to just dive into it before it really starts to make sense and come together.
Yeah.
Part of the process.
You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
You learn from your mistakes. And mine cost a bit, but
yeah, mine too.
I'm glad I could afford it.
Yeah, I call it an expensive hobby at this point.
Yes.
Did you use Vellum?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
the one I got. Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
And then after you published it on your own, what kind of stuff did you start doing to share it or promote it?
Good question. I've always been terrible at marketing, and it's the one question I find a lot of new authors are asking, like, how do I promote this? I did do the Facebook promotion. I did do the Instagram promotion. I think the Instagram one worked more than the Facebook one, but I think I don't know how many more books I sold. I got what do you call it? I got more followers through it. And I'm actually starting to think that maybe playing around with hashtags would be a cheaper way of doing it. Because if you use the right hashtags, like for example, if you're going to advertise your podcast, a lot of people go, "Oh, here's a podcast, Apple Podcast, hashtag Apple Podcast," and then you go, "Okay, there's 4-5 million people that have posted Apple Podcasts." But if you find a different way of saying that, there'll be less views, which means it'll be easier for people to find your stuff. But honestly, I think the most effective thing I did was advertising it on my podcast, and networking with other authors, and because you're going to build more of a following and more people are going to see your work. And I also, because my book's such a niche, I went on Reddit, and there was like an 80,000 member group of Emu War fans, and I was just like, "Here's a book," and I sold a few through that. But I'm not really an expert on marketing, and that's how I just decided to interview authors and stuff like that, because I wanted to reach out and network with other people. And I actually went on Fiverr, and there was people doing advertisement, and they're like, "Oh, for $10, I will post your book to 50,000 people." And then he had a screenshot, and I was like, "That's a Facebook group. Why pay him $10 when I can go in there myself?" And that's what I did. But I think don't just market yourself. Don't just market your book. Market yourself. And if you get out there, if you do interviews, if anyone's there, you want to come on my podcast, you can. See, just get interviews done, get out there, be present on social media, and have have a book cover that stands out. I think you need that too. Like you want something that people look at and go, no, you all can't have an emu on the front cover of your book, but eye-catching stuff. I think that'd work. And look, if I learn more about marketing, I'll let you know. But and if you know about marketing, let me know, because I think we're all still learning. But I think I just had a whole lot of luck when it came to it. But yeah.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely something that we're all learning, because you get through the learning curve of publishing the book in the first place. And then there's a whole another learning curve that is marketing.
Yeah.
It's big.
Most people think that you can just publish and throw it up there and then ta-da,
Yeah. And then people will just flock to your book because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing, but nobody knows that it exists. So
yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh, awesome. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share, or any other advice that you would offer to new authors or people who are just trying to write a book in the first place?
Yeah, well, look, like you probably know, I'm not an expert. I'm very new to this. I barely finished school. I barely finished English. I did most of my learning outside school. But look, one of the things I've picked up the most that I got from my friend Chris, he's a new author. If you get the idea out of your head that you are that you want to be the best author, or that you want to be a best-selling author and that sort of thing. I'm not saying give up on your dreams or anything like that, but just like when it comes to writing, make the priority that you love what you do, that you love writing, that you love the story that you're telling, because it will translate onto the page. Love what you do, love what you write, love the story you're telling. Make that your first priority, and it'll flow, because a lot of people will be able to read it, and they'll be able to sense that you love the story that you're telling. Don't rush it, don't half-heart it, like put everything into it. And I think that's one of the most important things to do before you even get to the, where do I publish this, or where do I what do I do about marketing, all that stuff. I think the story is probably one of the most important parts of writing, and that's what little advice I can offer as someone who's only been doing it in a very, very, very short time. Been very lucky, but I should be the one asking for advice, if we're honest.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.